afternoon. Um, so we are a early stage startup. We have been about 2.5 years old. A very interesting story. In 2014, actually China did an experiment where they actually demonstrated using a satellite how a video conferencing is done. But the interesting part in that demonstration was that they had used quantum technologies. What it meant was, while Chinese do it very differently, right? They show something and there's something behind it. What they did not tell people is that they have actually acquired very prominent computing technology, which means that both defending capability as well as offensive capability, and which meant a lot of things to all over the world. And India was obviously extremely concerned, because what it meant was that all our national security, all our financial data, all our healthcare data that goes all over the place today in a digital world is easily can be copied and broken by Chinese, or for that matter, by many other countries. So what it led to is a scrambling. Prime Minister of PMO asked principal scientific advisor to go around and see how would they build this capability in India as well. So he went around and he reached out to IIT Chennai, and there Dr. Anil Prabhakar, who had actually had worked in this technology for about 10 years ago, but he dropped it because there was no taker at that point of time. And that is when QNU Labs was set up to revive that technology. And when we set it up we are set up in Bangalore on MG Road, and we have been working for 2.5 years to build India's first quantum cryptography product, to put India on the quantum map of the world. So I'm going to walk you through this, why this technology and what we have done. So what we do is, while in cryptography, I don't know, it's a little different subject, not many people understand. But typically today in cryptography, when any data is encrypted, mathematics is used, there's a mathematical complexity that's used, which means that you need a huge compute power to reverse engineer the prime numbers that are used to figure out encryption. Now, so far it was okay, because none of the current computing capabilities, it was possible to break that. But now with quantum computers or quantum simulators that people are seeing around, it is expected that very soon, or probably in the next 5 to 10 years, people will actually break mathematical complexity. So that's the reason in quantum cryptography, we don't think mathematics, we think physics, right? And I will talk to you about later how the physics is used to do, and we use quantum physics. This is a little dated data, but I'm just using it to drive a point that today, I think that the report says that there are about more than thousands and thousands of data records that are breached every day, right? And what happens is, when any organization is breached, you see that over the third arrow there, lost customer business, 40% of the effort, of the cost. So average cost of a breach is about $4 million, right? And just imagine 40% of that is in lost customer business, legal services, investigation. So which means it actually, any breach actually puts organization on a back foot. And then, instead of, you heard about it, right? Innovation is so important, customer-led, focus is important, but any breach that happens and any loss of data actually put organization in such a risk averse model that actually your innovation and your growth actually gets stunted. And this is going to happen more and more. So also World Economic Forum, they have, every year they do that. So they have been talking about what are the key risks that the world can see. And data theft and cyber attacks and critical infrastructure failures are on the top 5. So just imagine, we never thought, a few years ago, we used to look at the weapons of mass destruction, right? Impact could be high, but likelihood very, very low. So people are not talking about there's going to be a nuclear warfare, but there's going to be cyber warfare. And the winner is the one who would have the quantum capabilities. I think and that's what people are saying. The question is, why should we change, right? And because of interest of lack of time, I'm trying to go a little fast here. People come and tell me, all type of cyber attacks you see. Insider attacks, there's a limited to couple of people. They take away certain files. Of course, it is a loss to the organization, but it is impact, right? You can remove the person, blast radius. Blast radius is, say, in cybersecurity, we use the term saying, how much is the impact, right? How far is the impact? Impact is limited. Malware attack, again, malware comes in, gets into the few other systems. You can figure out, remove that. But just imagine if the cryptography is broken. It is like saying that now somebody is able to, by the way, how many of you when we do a banking transaction, right? We do, and I'm able to debit, credit, and so on. We become very happy, right, that our transaction is over. How many of you believe that data is not copied while you're doing that transaction? Actually, significant amount of data that goes across on the optical fiber on the internet gets copied. People, what they do, they copy it, and that's where people get the credentials, right, of your credit card, of your other data. So people believe that once you have encrypted the data, you're protected. Largely it was true, but today it's not true, and I'm going to talk about it. So if cryptography is broken, it is like saying organization will come to standstill, right? Which means that tomorrow morning, yeah, you will have legal suits, lawsuits, and the customer's data will be all gone. Your IP and significant data would be all out there. So this is unlimited damage, right? And how do we protect that? So what is the impact? And quantum computer is one thing, right? But quantum computer is not there yet, and people say it will take time. But just imagine for the time being that there's no quantum computers. But let's say somebody is copying the data. And today, there's a $500 device that is available on eBay that you can order, and you can tap optical fiber, any optical fiber that is going from bank to a data center. You can put the tap, and you can copy all the data. It's as simple as that. So what happens if that happens is all national security infrastructure will compromise, right, destabilizing the nations. Critical information infrastructure, power grid, metro, railways, atomic research centers, all under threat, right? All trust zones for e-commerce are broken. Massive frauds, large lawsuits, economic transitions will be grind to halt. We have already seen that. Equifax, the data breach happened in somewhere around June 2017. They detected in August. By October, the top team had already resigned, right? So that is the type of impact that we're talking about. Here it still took probably 6 months, but now what I'm talking about is going to happen in few hours. So what is the problem with data security today, right? So there are potential backdoors that are built because all the legal interception organizations have to do that. Harvest now and decrypt. What people are doing is they're copying the data. Because it's encrypted, they can't use it straight away. They're taking to the labs. And we are talking about targeted attacks, state-sponsored attacks. We have already seen many of these attacks. People take it to the lab and they decrypt it later. And then what happens is there's a vulnerabilities in the current systems, PKI, what we use, public key infrastructure or public cryptography. I have personally talked to many organizations, and when I talk to the CIOs and the CISOs and ask them, how do you manage your encryption keys? The first answer is they've started figuring out who has the keys, right? And the second thing, then they start figuring out what is the process is going to they manage. And in our term that we call it keeping the keys under the carpet. A lot of us sometimes put the keys under the carpet and go to the, so this is what happens. In our IT where everything is becoming data-centric, data-oriented, the keys are highly mismanaged, right? People don't know, and sometimes the organization is using the same keys for years, right? Just imagine if somebody's hacked the key and key is being reused, this is a big problem. And the last one, quantum, we call it Y2Q. All of us heard about Y2K. Fortunately, Y2K, we knew the date, and we have the time and ample resources to do that. But just imagine Y2K is called year to quantum computers. If the day the quantum computer is available, the world is going to come to standstill. But unfortunately, we don't know when it will be. So we can't wait for that Y2Q, right? So we have to act today in order to do that. Deloitte and other consulting companies have already become aware of that. they've started talking about it. If you see that what is read there, enterprises and government should start protecting against the threat of powerful quantum computers today, not when it happens, since by then it will be too late. Big question. Does our current technology, it tells us when any attempt is made to copy or steal the data? Unfortunately not. And it can't even prevent it. So good security is one which secures before the event, not after, right? So what we're trying to build here, quantum cryptography, the products that we build, it does two things. It does an intrusion detection before anybody tries to copy the key. So the way the hackers do is, they copy the data today and they get the key as well. And they decrypt the key and then they uncrypt the data. But if hackers do not get access to the key, then their motivation of copying the data and the amount of effort it will take them to use the brute force to do that, it is not attractive. So that's what we want to protect. The whole idea of quantum cryptography is protecting, using the physics, quantum physics, how do we protect the encryption key? So what is the need of the day-to-day? We need a random key, which means that nobody can predict. Today the keys are generated algorithmically, which means that there's one key and the other key has some algorithmic correlation, and people can figure that out. What we need is a 100% random key. It is used, it is nature's principles are used, which means you do not know, nobody can ever predict what will be the next key. Second one is a seed for the key. Second one is real-time generation, which means the keys are not stored and reused. On the request of an encryptor, we generate the key and give it to them, and they use it, and the next time they want to use, we give the other key. So keys are generated at a very high speed, as high as 1,000 keys per second. Right? And then last one is that the keys are transmitted or shared over the optical fiber using physics, so that anybody who touches the key, both the parties will come to know about it and they drop the key, right? So it's quantum secure keys. So what happens in quantum cryptography? It is based on two principles, Heisenberg uncertainty principle and no cloning theorem. So I will just give a crude example to help you understand what this Heisenberg uncertainty principle means. So in quantum, what happens, you have two states which are superimposed, right? And Heisenberg uncertainty principle says that if anytime you try to observe a state, it changes its property and you can't observe it, right? So for example, nobody has seen mermaid, right? So mermaid is a quantum state of a woman and a fish. The moment somebody tries to observe a mermaid, it will either be a woman or it would be a fish, right? And that's what happens actually in Heisenberg uncertainty principle. And no cloning theorem is again that any arbitrary quantum state, you can't copy it and clone it. These two physics principles prevent or help quantum cryptography. So if I send a key data over an optical fiber using photons, right? And of course, there's some science involved there. Then any eavesdropper who tries to copy it, it creates so much perturbation in the quantum state that both the people who are sender and receiver, they come to know about it and they drop the key, right? And then they generate the new key. So key is unhackable, and that's the reason we call in quantum cryptography unconditional security. So this is the way it happens. There are two boxes, and they co-locate with Cisco encryptors. And this is what we have, three products. We have done quantum random number generator, quantum key distribution, and single photon detectors. These are very highly specialized products. This is the way. I will just take two more seconds probably. So this is a product that we have. It has multiple layers, and whether it's the Ministry of Home Affairs, any private network, you can actually protect using this. So it's basically, this technology helps you to do much quantum safe internet and cloud security. And the big deployment is that through a satellite, you can provide a wide coverage. And so this is a use case where a bank headquarter is trying to send a data on a data center. Every hour they do that. But this goes on optical fiber, which is exposed. So what we do is we send a quantum channel. If you see there, the key quantum channel there, where you see keys going on a separate boxes. And anybody who tries to get access to that key, we will come to know about it. So all financial transaction, health records, critical infrastructure, everything is all protected using this. So we predicted that there will be a Y2Q movement will come, and actually in 3 months, there is a company called Automateski. They actually demonstrated using a quantum simulator. They actually broke a RSA 2048 key, right, in 3 months. So what Y2Q is already here. Thank you.